Bitcoin Bula stalling at the wrong time, but does this mean that the upwards momentum is finally waning?
Let me into my zone. Let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let
The clickbait cave is back in full force with that opening statement right there. We have plenty to discuss today as far as the short, medium, and higher term timeframes go. I myself have actually figured out, I think, my computer problems, which I'm really happy about, as you can see by a big old smile on my face, because that was absolutely plaguing the last week for myself. Had to get a new motherboard for anyone who happens to give a fuck, and that also means that Twitch will probably be going maybe around the weekend time. I'll be doing streams there once again, those nice long streams that I absolutely fucking love, and of course everyone's invited who's interested in such things. Of course, I also am uploading to my new gaming channel for anyone who also happens to give a fuck there. I totally understand that most people are not interested in such things. Please do not feel obligated to go over and check it out if that does not sound like you, but if it is, then you're more than welcome as well. It's at Total Krown. I'll probably put a little link in the comment section, maybe if I remember, which I typically do not, but I've been really enjoying that. Anyways, on to the magic and money business right here, as we do see Bitcoin is trading at 9,500 still on the Krown trading application, which can be found at app.krown2.net, and is also completely free, so take advantage of it. And also, we do have a new thumbnail as well, so it's really good. Anyway, credit to our creative designer. Anyways, I do want to reference a few numbers here as we've been looking at for the past couple weeks now. So the open interest still hanging around that 880, about 900 million mark, within about $100 million mark, or range between that level, between about 1 billion and 800 even million. So with regards to that, we still have not seen a difference in phase as what I've been looking for, and I'm still looking for either a pump up of 100 million in open interest or a dump down of 100 million in open interest to kind of denote the next sort of phase in Bitcoin. I want to see one of the major levels that we're going to speak about again today, being broken, plus about that amount, at the very least, at least above 950 million, at the very least for the downside, at least below 800 million. For the open interest. If one of those two things happens, plus a major breach of a major level, that should be a damn good indication that we are going to see the next sort of phase of this market transpire. So with that said, we do see that the Bitcoin dominance actually coming down a little bit here. I still am overall bullish on this for the long term. Short term, medium term, I think that this is probably just consolidation week. Perhaps we'll take a bit of a look at that later. All the other top end metrics are more or less the same. Not really too much update there, except for the crypto fear and greed index, which, well, is more or less the same. Still in the neutral territory, which is interesting nonetheless, as Bitcoin has been basically doubling off the 4,400 lows since March 13th, and the crypto fear and greed index never even really technically got into greedy territory. I think the highest that it got was about a 52, as you see right there, maybe a 55, which is just on the precipice, but it technically doesn't go into greedy territory until it's above about 60. So with that said, it still is a little bit more indicative that perhaps we are in the phase of climbing the wall of worry. But again, price action matters the most, as well the liquidation engine is based upon that. So with that said, let's go into the actual charts themselves. I would like to wish you the best and the happiest so as we get into it right on over here. Whoops, looks like it's very convoluted as it stands right now. I want to take everything off, get naked on these charts, and look at it with just a plain eye right here. And at the end of the day, as far as the daily goes right now, are we still in an uptrend? Yes, we are technically still in an uptrend. However, with yesterday's sort of hesitation, we'll call it, it does start to call in question the momentum of the short and medium term timeframes on Bitcoin price action right now. Of course, at the end of the day, though, trend still trumps all, and it's kind of like a difficult word to use right now. And of course, looking at major moving averages here as well, Bitcoin is still maintaining above all major moving averages. So am I bearish on something that that has that sort of signature? Absolutely not. But if Bitcoin is going to give any sort of warning flags on the short and medium term timeframes, it's damn close to doing it. In fact, we actually did see the short term timeframe red flag being thrown yesterday below 9,500. That transpired. That next move down to 9,300-ish region, of which we see Bitcoin tapped into it right here. Depending upon an exchange that you're looking at, BitMexico got down to 93, as we said. Looks like GDAX got to 93 as well. And then Stamp had the dildo of death right here, all the way down to 9,100, bouncing off the 21 exponential moving average, but that is the odd man out for the major exchanges, and all of the exchanges coming down to our 9,300-ish support, which was sort of, what's the word that I'm looking for? I don't want to use the word expected, because that's just a terrible word for any trader to use ever. You just can't have expectations in this game, and anyone who's lived long enough will tell you that, or if they haven't, it'll be written on their gravestone. Anyways, looking at this right here, as it stands right now, yes, we are just kind of bouncing off that lower support, which I'll actually end up moving up a little bit now, because we did initiate that first move down below 9,500, which then initiated that next move down to about 9,300. That was a short-term range that I was talking about yesterday. Again, I did not trade that one just because it's too small, not enough meat on the bones when we are at major areas kind of colliding with each other relatively soon, as you can see right here. But the same sort of knowledge does still essentially apply, and what we can do now is we can actually move up that short-term sort of initiation barrier, if you want to call it that. I'm still looking for like a better word for these things, because I feel like it's not very well defined. But the short term now is going to be held in by this 9,400 region. So I just moved it up about $100 to give a little bit more of a leading indication of if and when that actually does start to break down once again, as that will destroy our higher low structure on not just the short term time frames, but also the medium and actually the daily as well, where it really starts to matter. But of course, is that the higher term time frame region that really is like the major consideration right now? No, actually it's not. However, it would very likely propel a move all the way down here to test the major area, which is really the one that I want to keep a keen eye on at about 9,100-ish region, this blue box territory right here. This blue box territory is not just coming in from the last little break, well, not so little, but $1,000 breakout from about 9,000 to 10,000 right here. But also and also a liquid zone coming in from this little accumulation region right here. But more importantly, the long-term trend line coming in from our $4,400 low and March 13th does meet up around there. Actually, if I adjust this a little bit more, well, actually we'll have to double check on exchanges. I'm not sure why I had it like that. I believe this is the right way right here. Let's do a fresh run on GDAX, and let's see where it comes in, because I believe this one's a little bit more obvious. Yeah, there we go. And that would be coming in at current price action, actually much further down. Yeah, no, sorry, 9,100. Yes, that is correct. That is correct. Anyways, so yes, double checking on that one. Good for thoroughness, and it is revealed that below 9,100, yes, we do have a big shift. And that would also imply that if we do break 9,100 to the downside, especially on a higher term time frame closure like a 12-hour or a daily, I do believe that would be a damn good signal that we are going to be headed down much further south. Yes, there will be bounces along the way, of which I have plenty mapped out right here. Of note would be about the 8,500-ish level, also the 0.5 Fibonacci retracement, also our last kind of low on the higher term timeframes there. Below that, I have 8,100, our spike level down here. I do think that there'd be another bounce there, but I do not. I strongly believe that Bitcoin would not stop there if it were to test there. Probably just a little bit of a bounce and then rolling over. Down here in the 7,500 region and 7,100 region, that's where I do think that Bitcoin could actually bottom if it were to even initiate this move in the first place. But to be 100% directly clear, just based upon the daily trend and also daily major moving averages and even daily momentum moving average, daily momentum oscillators, I'm actually not bearish on this right now, and I do think that it is going to have another chance to kind of just force its way back onwards and upwards, and especially as long as we're closing dailies above the 10 simple, which is the lowest period moving average on the board right now. I'm just not bearish on anything that's doing that. Doesn't mean that it can't move down here, but my bias would still remain to the upside just based upon that, especially with Bitcoin kind of grinding out this $10,000 region to the upside, which the initiation phases for that next major move to the upside, which technically speaking, the short term would be about 10.5, medium term would be about 11.5, long term, well, 11.5 needs to really be broken before we actually get into that conversation. But as you can see right here, Bitcoin is grinding up this area quite a bit, and typically that is actually indicative that a break is going to occur in that direction. Whenever you grind up a major resistance or major support, it's kind of like tapping into the dry powder of who's ever defending that, if you think of it in like a bulls versus bears type case, which is actually not really complete or technically right if you like really narrow it down into the minutia, but for our purposes right now, it's fine. And what do I mean by that? Well, basically this, the kind of age-old saying is that you don't get two chances to sell the top. You don't get 2 chances to buy the low. I know someone's going to say, but Krown, double bottom, double top. Yes, you will get double bottoms and double tops, but you will notice that typically over time, it will come back to those levels and end up breaking it. And usually what's happening, or kind of the theory behind what's happening here, is that if bears are defending this area, which I think is very obvious. I mean, it's been going all the way back to our $14,000 high in June of 2019. So almost a year now, kind of tapping into this resistance. Every time that Bitcoin gets up there, the selling pressure subsides a little bit as naturally as bears or whoever you want to look at on the sell side are tapping into their monetary funds, and at some point they will run out. Just like buying pressure in 2018 right here, same thing, right? Bitcoin tests the 6,000 level once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, and then breaks as buying power just dries up. And that's kind of the same sort of idea what's going on over here, except a little bit less of a a little bit less aggressiveness with kind of saying that. But this was a year long tapping into this area right here, and so was this to the downside before that big break. So I do typically, I do err on the side of the upside here actually, and it's really not until we break back down below 9,100 where I start to change around my own trading disposition to looking more for shorts and longs. But as it is right now, yes, there are a lot of things that are indicating that perhaps we are losing momentum here, and lower term timeframes are certainly starting to turn down quite a bit. However, at the end of the day, like I said, trend before everything else, as it will be your best friend if you just let it be. Looking at 4-hour Stokes right here, we are headed down. Now, admittedly, we are going to be hitting this trend line right here that we've been mapping out ever since 21st of April. So actually not that far long ago, but does have plenty of tests, and more importantly, is coming in right around the edge of the bearish control zone. So I would say that would be a damn good indication, or I wouldn't say damn good indication, but I do think that if bulls are going to pull through here, we probably just bounce off this 9,400 support a few times, maybe get a wick down to 93, but as long as there's no closures below and creating a lower low, especially below 9,300, but even below 94, I think gets it as well. I do think that it's just going to reaccumulate here and pop back up and test around 9,800. I actually do think that that's what's the most likely thing to happen right here. Even granted, like all of the other things that are going on in these charts, historical volatility percentile on the 4-hour is actually in a very precarious place right now, because it technically is expanding in the way that I look at things. As long as that moving average is having a positive slope, I look at this as in the expansion phase. Now, of course, is this a good area for it to kind of turn back down and go back into the long-term contraction phase with a resolution point somewhere in early June, which implies like an actual resolution point somewhere right around here, which would be a little bit less than a week now, around the 25th or 26th, as that becomes about 75% full, which is statistically incredibly likely to break around that point. Yes. However, as long as moving average is having a positive slope here, I actually do treat it as an expansion phase. And if this is an expansion phase during this consolidation right here, that would suggest that we are going to pop back up and test around the top side of this region at the very least before it's all said and done. And of course, anytime that we get to the overall resistance, well, we are going to have a chance, not we, but Bitcoin's going to have a chance to actually break to the upside. And that's really where I do start to look towards a short-term move of about 10,500, which can transpire into that next 11.5 move and so on and so forth. But of course, this one before the next, don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here. And looking at 4-hour Joule, we did get a nice sell signal. I wouldn't necessarily these aren't the sell signals that I take myself. The more aggressive Joule traders will. More and fall will for the people in the Joule chat. There you go. I do not like these signals. I look at this as like a continuation signal. And to be fair, it did play out a decent amount, even just kind of not hindsight trading it, but taking it one after. It would have told you to short right around 9,700, and that gave you about a $500 move to this support route and over here. So is it relevant to think that that's played out? It's possible, yes, but technically speaking, when you do see a nice signal like that, typically is going to test around the next fib area, which it's not at just yet. So the more sideways at this level, the better, as that's going to allow that to kind of have a reset if you kind of interpret it in such ways. Anyways, looking at 3-hour, do we have anything of note here? We see 3-hour Stokes coming down at kind of at the same angle as a 4-hour, and the same sort of trend line actually being broken right here. So that's, well, actually no, it's not being broken just yet. But you can see that they're all kind of coming into a support area for this last consolidation period, basically getting this area right here. And could it be that Bitcoin's just putting in a higher low? Could be, yes. And I would kind of run with that assumption as long as Bitcoin's above 9,400. I mean, that's essentially what I'm looking at right now. And also, it would be accompanied by hidden bullish divergence on the lower term time frame RSI. We are in the context of an uptrend. Bitcoin is potentially putting in a higher low, while RSI also makes a lower low. That would be hidden bullish divergence. However, needs to confirm this as a local low first, and that would be good enough to get us very, 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 very likely we'd see a move back up to about 9,800 if that gets confirmed. How would that get confirmed? Well, how do you confirm a local low? In this case right here, this gets confirmed as a local low if we do one of two things: either close a 2-hour dildo above 95.50, or just take out this this high right here. Would look good for confirming this as a local low. A little bit less scientific here, but that would be a few hairs, a few wrist hairs below 9,600. So if Bitcoin can retake that level, I'd be looking for another $200, maybe $300 move back up to this blue box right here. And that's going to set Bitcoin up for another potential chance to actually break the big resistance that is really the one that I think most eyes are on right now. This area, of course, we didn't even really go through it because I've gone through it so many times, but you already likely know this. This is the 618 Fibonacci retracement from the ultimate high to the ultimate low of the $14,000 moonshot or parabolic rally that we saw last year in 2019. Also, the big breakdown liquid zone that we saw from 10,000 going all the way down to 4,400 about a month ago, and also the big bad rejection that we saw on the China news over here when China unbanned Bitcoin or whatever the fuck that they do. So this area is very, 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 very well documented as just being an area of peril and nastiness. But Bitcoin, rubbing up against it multiple times is indicative of more good things and bad things. Like I said, I've never found I shouldn't say I've never found a market, but I don't find markets to be overly generous with giving you multiple chances to sell basically the high, and this one being so close, just not the way that I'm not the way that I expect to see it. Again, expectation is a terrible thing to have, but is kind of helping out the bias boner right now. Staying strong, baby. Staying strong with that good old blue pill. Anyways, looking at the 2-hour and the hourly, same sort of thing here. 2-hour Stokes, momentum also just coming down to the same areas. 2-hour 200 simple, actually protecting the last little local low right there as well. So I do kind of like that. And historic volatility percentile here actually coming into a new phase, it looks like. So the very low time frames are actually getting ready for a move, and with the historic volatility percentile getting very red on that first dump down there, I would expect the contraction phase to test at the very least a little bit of upside. Does it fulfill the areas that we spoke about earlier? I don't have any real opinion on that. I just respond to price action if and when those things do happen. For right now, for full disclosure, I am long. I'm still long from 80 to 50 or whatever it is, and I've just been covering using calls. So just covered call just every fucking time, using the 9,500 strike and the 9,250 strike right now, which are, just all premium really. Or sorry, not all premium, but that's the idea with the cover. Just keep myself covered, and then I'll just move it on when these expire in about a couple hours. Okay, cool. Well, depending upon what happens, but might have to pick some more deep strikes in order to protect myself. A lot of people have been asking, Krown, why don't you choose higher strikes instead of these lower strikes? The idea with a cover is to fucking cover yourself. Understand this: when you're trading options, you are looking to manage risk. At least that's the idea to use them. If you are going to trade as a professional, you don't use them as fucking lottery tickets. Just absolutely insane that people would even think this. It's not actually insane at all, because people, people want to gamble. I get that, and that's kind of the way that I did it too. So actually, I have to call myself out. When I first began, I'd look at buying premium as fucking lottery tickets, and it's fun, and once you kind of get it, once a penny drops, or whatever the saying is, that is that usually is the natural conclusion. But usually after a few months, maybe even a year of trying that out, it's you bleed enough to realize that that's not the way to be using them. In order to use options properly, they're really used as risk and position management tools. And in order to do that, a cover is just exactly that. It's managing your risk. So you want to protect yourself down to whatever strike that you believe is most relevant for those, for those pivot points. That's why I choose, the $9,000 level in the 9,250-ish region in the past week, and then, moved it up actually to 9,500 yesterday. That one actually looking like it might even expire worthless right now, but with Bitcoin price action right there, very, very easy to manage. Anyways, looking at momentum oscillators, let's go check out what the reverse Stochastic indicator cross is showing right now. Hourly momentum remains to the downside as long as we are below 9,500. So hourly needs to maintain above 9,500 in order to flip this baby around. Bi hourly showing at 9,530. Triple hourly showing at 9,550, 4 hour showing 9,700. So I do believe that the 3 hour actually gets that one right, because it would show that if we do take out the little high of this very short-term consolidation right here, I'm talking about this guy right here, which is kind of looking a little bit more like a bear flag actually. But if it were to, then momentum oscillators would turn back up on those lower term timeframes. And yes, I do think that we'd see hidden bullish divergence play out, and we'd pop back up towards around 9,800, maybe 9,900, something like that on the short-term timeframe. So does that imply that we're going to break, to that 10.5 level? No, the break to the 10.5 level is still held back by the same things that we've been looking at for the past week, two weeks, or I guess, you could even say a year, because it's been kind of a year in the making with that resistance. But on a 4 hour total closure, I need to see either a 4 hour closure above 9,900, I believe would do it, or a move just above about 9,970, $10,000, or a 12-hour dildo closure or daily closure above 9,800. Any one of those things would likely do it for me. Obviously, higher term time frames are going to be better, and then I would be looking for a move all the way up to this blue box territory right here between about 10.4 and 10.5. That's where the higher term time frames can really start to take over. As above there, and any sort of a weekly closure above 10,150, 10,200-ish region, or a wick above that 10,500-ish region. I would actually look for another extension of about $1,000 to 11,500. That's where the super macro can get involved, and we'll get there if Bitcoin gets there. I don't want to talk about it right now because it's going to imply the wrong things. But as far as a weekly setup right now, I still look for this as continuation. Major moving averages are more or less bullish here. 21 exponential moving average supporting price action. I'm not long-term bearish on anything that's above the 21, especially as long as the yellow 21 has a positive slope. You can see back throughout the annals of history, anytime that Bitcoin's been generally above it, Bitcoin is in a bullish phase, just generally going up. And of course, the slope of the 21 just as important as when when price action is both above it and the slope is up. Well, that's going to keep you in this whole move going all the way from $5 to 1,100. It's going to keep you in this whole move from 300 to 20,000. It's going to keep you in this whole move, this whole move to the downside from 10,000 down to 4,400. And then now, what do you know? Bitcoin's above it, using it a couple times to bounce off of and gaining divergence away from the 55. So I actually do look at this as still overall good, with momentum also still pointed to the north side right there, and also on weekly RSI, which is hesitating a little bit. I do like the read on CMEs a little bit more, as it looks a lot more like a bounce off the broken resistance testing as support, which would be indicative that the breakout is real, as this would be a derivative of price action, meaning that it's going to tell you sooner rather than later, or it's going to tell you sooner than price action if we're actually going to see a breakout. So naturally, it is going to show these sorts of things first, and so far so good. But I now really need to see price action follow through. I do believe also on CMEs, just the way, based off the way that these last few weeks have closed, if we even just see a move back above last week's high, $10,070, I do think that we'll see that next extension towards our early February top right here. Overall, I suppose I could wrap up my thoughts as just generally bullish still, but the short-term pivot is approaching relatively closely. So I would be very, 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 very quick to switch around if and when Bitcoin does break below even like a 4 hour or 2 hour below 9,400, and especially below 9,100, maybe even 9,150 for the more aggressive traders out there. Like I said, there would be bounce along the way to the downside. It's not just going to be a straight line, but as it is right now, I still remain with a little bit of a bullish bias. I mean, shit, man, even looking at the log scale for CMEs right here, which admittedly I don't actually like the log scale. I prefer the linear scale now for Bitcoin land, but actually on both of them, that prior resistance was broken, the descending trend line, which I don't trust all that much. I trust, or don't trust anything, but I like horizontals a lot more for those sorts of things. They seem to standardize and get price action better, and just had better results with them, long term. So let's go check out now traditional markets. Looking at NAS futures, still bullish. Closed above our area yesterday. Did hit our target at 94.50ish region. I do think that this is going to lift off a little bit more. Probably test around 9,600 overall. As we've been saying, we've been bullish on this thing for a while. Everyone's fucking calling it top. I'm not trying to sound like I am being arrogant right now, but it's a fucking uptrend, man. Fucking uptrend. What about E-mini futures? Same thing. Looks like the breakout is real to me. I think short term, probably 300. More medium term, maybe over the next couple weeks, back up to 310 to 313. I've been saying this for a while. I'm not bearish on this, especially as long as E-mini futures are above 28.50. I don't see any real reason to be bearish on this. This is a fucking uptrend. It's a fucking uptrend, man. Same thing with the NAS futures, even stronger. As long as it's closing dailies above 9,000, that's even like too much right now. I'd have to move it up to like 9,200 just to like make it relatable. It looks good. It looks good. The trend is your friend until the end of the trend. And we even have, as I've been saying, an inverted head and shoulders here. And I think that's playing out. The target on that's 10,000. That's more long-term, obviously. Gold, coming back down a little bit. Need to see it maintain dailies above 1730 to remain short-term bullish. Medium and long-term, still okay. I'd much rather look at that one next week. I don't think that there's too much else to say about it this week. We already got the breakout that we were looking for. It's time to kind of watch, I suppose. Let's go check out Butyrol and Litecoin. Butyrol still looking interesting here. Kind of waning out a little bit like Bitcoin as well. Really don't want to see any sort of daily closures below $200. Can test down there, that's fine, but any sort of a daily closure below $200, and I'd be looking for a return back down to 190 at the very least, another bounce, and then we'll come back and reassess. What about Litecoin? Litecoin is going to do whatever Bitcoin does, typically does. I mean, this looks like absolute shit. It's fucking garbage. It's a fucking garbage chart. As are most cryptocurrency charts. Let's just go take a quick look. EOS, garbage chart. NEO, garbage chart. Tron, garbage chart. Zcash, garbage chart. BNB, garbage chart. Motherfucker. Krown's just spreading FUD. He wants to buy your BNB's low. He likes to trade tokens on Binance. Don't you know? It's all just a bunch of manipulation. It's like, all right, okay. Stellar, garbage chart. But again, if Bitcoin moves up here, do I think that most alts are going to move up? Yes, I do. If Bitcoin moves down here, do I think that most alts are going to move down? Yes, I do. We can even look at Link as well. What's Link going to be doing? Link actually does do some different stuff sometimes. Link's still bullish. Yeah, still bullish. I'd actually be looking for some upside on Link for 435 to 440. Probably long-term retest like 4 3/4. It looks good. It looks good. So admittedly, Link's still kind of being the oddball in this market, doing its own thing, and deserves respect for that. You better respect Link, because the Link Marines will let you have it on Twitter mentions if you do not. And they will also fulfill your comment section with, hey bro, why stop looking at Link? Link is great. Link good. Look at Link. Go fuck yourself, Link. Sorry. Okay, so cool. Yeah, I think we've spoken about most of the things that I want to speak about today. Keeping it a little bit on the shorter side, or at least I'm trying to. I guess we can go look at probability ranges once again. I wouldn't expect them to be all that different from yesterday. Hey, Kenya, you bastard, you. Okay, cool. So if I'm using $10,000 as an upper as the upper side target, well, let's maybe get this off an hourly for the love of fucking God. Maybe let's go to a 12-hour upside target above 10,000, which admittedly on a 12-hour, it's really not 10,000. It's more like 9,800. And downside, still, I'd still kind of err on the side of caution with 9,300. Would show 18.25% versus 29.5%. So now the probabilities are actually shifting in the favor of the downside. However, that is with future. Let's go to current. How does that change it? Still more or less the same. So downside probabilities are now actually flipping. The probabilities have flipped from a mathematical standpoint. Same thing with the daily, 27.25 versus 34.25 essentially. For those same areas, 9,800 to the upside, 9,300 to the downside, and more importantly, the rings on these are starting to squeeze. So as I said, the last couple of days, Bitcoin boulas are kind of on the clock here, and if they fail to really break above, I think within really within these next few days, it will call into question the rally's efficacy, at least for the short and medium term. Long term, still got the uptrend for a while, all the way down, I think, to I'd have to recheck, or all the way up to, well, if we go to a weekly, we can check right now. Really not into question as long as we're above about 8,000, 8,100-ish region. But as it stands right now, I do think that Bitcoin boo laws are kind of on the clock. So it's one of those situations where it's like, all right, it's technically not problematic just yet, but you do want to see follow through sooner rather than later. Probably, technically before this week is over, which is Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, although CMEs do close tomorrow at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, I believe, at least. Yeah, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Okay, cool. So yeah, wrapping it up right here. Probabilities are starting to shift in the favor to the downside. However, I would still be using even a short-term range of about 9,400 now rather than 93, given our last little spike low right there. If Bitcoin does break below there, I would look for a test of the big bad support down around 9,500. If that area breaks, that's really when I do think this is going to be called into question overall. Again, it would have to break on the very least a 4-hour closure, preferably a higher time frame like a 12-hour or a daily. And then, yes, I'd target a move down to 85, probably a bounce there, then a move down to 81, probably a bounce there, then a move down to 75, maybe a bottom there, maybe a bottom at 71. I'd want to see that in real time. By the same token, if Bitcoin can even just regain 9,600 and especially close like a lower term time frame above there, I would look for another test back up short term to about 98, 9,900-ish region. That would set it up for a potential break to the upside if Bitcoin can close either a 4-hour above 9,900, a 12-hour or a daily above 9,800, or take out the last spike high right around basically 10,000 on just a wick basis. Then I would look for extension to 10.5. That could, I'd look for a short-term pullback from that region first and foremost. But if it were to close above that region or even just wick above 10,500, the last like February high right here, I would look for extension to 11.5 overall. Maybe not on the same move, probably not on the same move. There is going to be an ebb and a flow, very, 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 very likely. But as it stands right now, as Bitcoin kind of, seems to have found a little bit of short-term support here, I do still think that we're doing something like this, where it's kind of formulating into a short-term ascending triangle. And if this is an ascending triangle, then we can make a measured move, which I've already done. And where would that be pointed towards? Pointed north. So bulls have trend all the way up to, I believe, a weekly. They have formations and moving averages. Bears have resistance, I guess, major resistance, and the fact that I think maybe most people are bullish here, perhaps. So yeah, other than that, I'd rather just wait for price action to kind of confirm itself and hop on the winning side's team. But yes, I do still remain with a little bit of a bullish bias here, and I'm happy to hold long as we're above about 9,100. Again, granted, my sort of position was created at the low 8,000s region. It's not going to be for everyone, of course. But with that said, I think it's time to sign off. I want to wish you the best once again. Take care, and until next time.